Good morning, everyone. Creator Mom. I want to talk about unschooling this morning. So I'm reading the book Free to Live, Create a Thriving Unschooling Home by Pam Laricchia. If you want to learn about unschooling, Pam Laricchia and Sue Patterson are, in my opinion, two of the freaking best women right now talking about unschooling. They are so lovely, gracious, nice, sweet people, and they're not there to beat you over the head with a bat. They're passionate about unschooling. All their kids are grown and are, seem to be living out their passions and good lives. And so Pam Laricchia, she really writes extraordinarily well. But yeah, she has about like 4 books. So Free to Live is the book I'm reading right now. Free to Live, Create a Thriving Unschooling Home. And she talks about how when things start getting a little bit mundane on the day-to-day and you start feeling uncomfortable with that, like life just is getting to seem a little bit boring. She says, like, don't ignore that. Look into it. Ask yourself, am I exploring my curiosities? Am I helping my children explore? Am I supporting my children in their explorations? Just kind of think about it for a minute and see what are your barriers, or what do you think? Anyway, she goes, are you making your children's world bigger and not smaller? And that really hit me like a ton of bricks right there. I was like, wow. And then I thought, I almost went into a condemnation and thought, I'm not doing good enough. Because I have my own like fears and limitations. And, like for instance, and I hadn't had this before, like when I was during my marriage and everything with driving, there weren't times where I really drove an hour away if it wasn't just to like visit one of my friends who lived about an hour away. And when I did that, I was fine. I didn't have panic attacks or panicky sensations while driving on the highway. And I did have panic attacks when I was younger, like 18, 19, 20, I don't know, somewhere around there, like my first or second year of college. I started having panic attacks and anxiety, and I had never experienced that before. And I don't know why that it was happening. I couldn't find like what the trigger was. So I had started seeing a therapist on campus. She was really sweet, and she really helped me to, sometimes just helps to acknowledge those things with somebody, and then that kind of like helps you mentally. You don't think like you're fucking crazy anymore or something like that. You're like, okay, like this is just my body, my heart rate's going up, everything's okay. It's just my nervous system like going on overdrive for whatever reason. So anyways, I said all that to say, the panic broke. I don't remember how long it was, but funny thing is, like, the more that I realize that other people experience it too, and then it's like nothing's wrong with me, that, like I said, my body's just like responding like and overreacting for whatever reason, doesn't make it feel any better if you're having a panic attack or you're getting those fiery sensations of panic happening within you. But it did make me feel better that this is overcomable, that this goes away, like, so I remember it was probably in like 2003 or 2004. I was laying in my bed and I came across an infomercial. Linda Bassett, I think her name was. And it was an infomercial about people having panic attacks, and she had come out with this whole program to help people like overcome panic attacks and anxiety. And it was a cassette tape program. It was so funny. It was quite expensive though. I think it was like close to $1,000. I don't remember. I could be over exaggerating. I can't remember now. But yeah. So I was like, I ordered it. I'm like, let me order it. And I thought, but they said, like, if you don't get results within, or if you end up not liking it or some shit like that, like, you could return it within, like, a certain time frame. So I ordered it. I listened to, like, the introductory tape, and just hearing, like, other people's stories and testimonies, like, and listening to her brought me such comfort that, like, I felt like that's all I needed from it. And then I, like, returned it and, like, got my money back, I feel like. Is that what happened? I can't remember exactly, but I know I returned it because I was like, damn, I'm going to have panic attack spending all this money on all these cassette tapes and everything. So, but yeah, I ordered it, listened to, like, a cassette, and I felt better. And sometime after that, I don't know, the panic attacks stopped. They just went away. Thank God. So I said all that to say I hadn't experienced panic attacks in a long time, like 10 years or something. I don't know. Yeah. Over 10 years. What am I talking about? Yeah, in over 10 years. Panic attack is something completely different than getting nervous. It is a fucking thing that just comes up within you, and you feel like, it's like you feel like you're gonna lose control, and this inexplicable fear just takes over. And just like, so, like, for instance, if I'm driving, it's just like, and this panic starts to ensue, and this fear starts to come over me. It's like my mind is like, oh, you're going to lose control of the car, or you're going to crash, or just, those are some of the thoughts. But it's just more of like a really bad feelings than it is thoughts per se, although the thoughts kind of like come along with the feeling. But then you're trying to fight it, because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, no, this is just a feeling. My nervous system is riled up right now for whatever reason. The furnace has turned on, because it's almost like a burst of energetic heat that just like is on the inside of me. It's crazy. And then your palms start getting sweaty and your heart starts beating. It's just awful. So when I was in the shelter with my kids for the 4 months that we were there, this wasn't really happening to me. It didn't happen. And I didn't drive hours away. Well, actually, no, I'm lying. It didn't happen like if I drove like kind of locally or like 20-30 minutes away, but I noticed it started happening on a couple occasions where I had to drive farther, like way into Ohio and stuff, like an hour or more away. I felt it. And I was like, this is ridiculous, because I would drive to Kings Island like when my kids were little, or like in 2017 or 2018, 19. I would drive to Kings Island, like, which is like an hour away, like every other day. And I was completely fine, totally fine, no anxiety. And then all of a sudden, now I'm in the shelter and I'm driving an hour away somewhere, and I'm getting a panic attack, or like panic inside of me. I don't say panic attack because when I was in college, I had panic attacks then, because I would just lay on the bed and cry. But now I have more of an awareness, so I can feel it happening, but I'm not letting it's not completely taking over me, because I'm like, I know what this is. It doesn't freak me out any less, I'll tell you that much. It still feels absolutely terrible and horrible. So, so I'm like, why is this happening? Like, this is so crazy. And then someone told me that, like, sometimes when you go through things, you know, we had a big change, a big shift, you know, staying in a shelter, and that your body can just, I don't know, like compensate in these ways or do these things. And I'm just like, oh, it is so frightening, because I think what's frightening about the panic is that it's not like you start thinking something and then it happens. It's almost this thing that just starts happening. It's just like, oh my God, it's happening. And I feel like I can't like control it, and I want it to go away. You want to fight it. You want it to go away. Oh my God, what can I think? What can I think? What can I say? What can I do that's going to make me feel better? Somebody said, choose sour warheads, do something where you're physical. I don't know, put cold water on your face to get your like focus off of it. But it almost seemed like the more I tried to resist it, the more I tried to change it, the worse it was becoming. So it's just like, oh my God, I guess I just have to like be okay with this right now. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, especially while you're driving. So yeah, that started happening to me, and it still kind of is, although I haven't really like driven very far, because now I'm just like, I don't want to experience that. So like, I'm just going to drive like locally. Forget going places that are farther. But I also realize how that is very limiting, and how would that affect, my ability to unschool, like, and my own ability and my own interest, because I love to hike. I'm not like an avid hiker. Like I wouldn't want to hike in dangerous places or do like, no, thank you. I'm more of a like, I just want to enjoy nature hike type of person, like for enjoyment. But I like to go to different places because I get bored. Like I don't want to be monotonous and go to the same place to hike every single day. I want to always be going someplace different. So I realized though that if you're local, there's only so many places like you can go. And that, different hiking groups tend to go out a little bit further, like an hour away, an hour and a half. And I'm just like, oh God, I don't want to drive. And I'm like, this is so awful how fear and anxiety can limit you, and I'm like, and then that started to concern me. I'm like, is that making my kids' world smaller and not bigger? Because it just hit me that fear and anxiety and panic will just make everything small. It will make your world small, or smaller than it could be. And it wouldn't be such a bad thing if I didn't care about driving far. Like if I was a person that was fine with like, oh, I don't care, I don't really want to go anywhere anyways, But it's just like, I don't want to be limited in that way. And I think that eventually, I think internally I'm starting to feel better about driving farther. So maybe it is starting to go away. Whatever it is that my body felt like it needed to do, maybe like a post-traumatic response. I don't know. So, but then I realized like, well, it's not going to help to beat myself up either. And that you don't have to do big, gigantic things in order to make your world bigger. This is where I just wanted to come in with an encouraging word for myself and for others. The problem is I'm disregarding the little things that I do every day, or whatever, every other day, that make my children and my world and my curiosities bigger. It's not about doing big things. Oh, you need to pay $1,000 for lessons and this and that to make your kids' world bigger, to make life exciting. No, you can make life exciting and bigger intellectually, and through experiences right around you. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't always have to be big, gigantic experiences that make someone's world bigger. And we have such a privilege of having technology nowadays. It's just like you can make your world bigger by watching a YouTube video about what the hell it's like living in Nepal or something like that. That kind of makes your worldview bigger. It can make your children see like, wow, there's a world outside of like my local environment, and I'm interested in this, or I can see what it's like to live in Japan, it's just, we have so much access to information and video footage, and we can watch vlogs and blogs of other people's lives. So there's so many little ways, because of technology too, to expand our world and make our worlds bigger. So don't be so hard on yourself thinking that you have to throw down thousands and thousands of dollars in order to make you or your child's world bigger. Like, you don't. And don't disregard the little things that you do on a daily basis for you and your child. You can make your world bigger. You make your world bigger just by observing even what seems to be mundane. Like, I have woods back here, and it's just like, hey, you want to go build a fort in a different spot today? Or, hey, do you want to go into the woods and see what it looks like? What's different from like the wintry looking woods to now spring has rose? Do you want to go observe that and check that out and see what we find? And sometimes your mind tries to tell you, oh, whatever, it's just the same old, you're not going to find nothing new. But that's just like the doubt and like the negativity of the mind, because when you get out there and you start moving and looking around, things do become exciting. Like, you just happen to find things and it happens. You're like, wow, that was really fulfilling. And that didn't take much. It was opening the door and stepping outside. It doesn't have to be big, but yet big things are happening internally. So... and I had to remind myself of that. I was like, holy crap, I need to put on the brakes here and remember that life is taking place all around us. And we're observing and we're talking and we're discussing. And through that, our worlds are becoming bigger. Another example of like this, I think of like unschooling ways of thinking, because it's basically living and learning through experience. And through your passions and interests, and learning everything about the world through that lens, right? Okay, so, just a little simple hike through these woods back here led us to that. Well, first of all, I'll start by this. Every time we were driving, one of my kids would be so interested and pulled towards the water towers. Wow, the water tower. I wonder this about the water tower. I wonder that about the water towers. What do they do? And so through those curiosities, well, let's look it up. We got phones. We got Google. What do water towers do? How do they hold water? What is their purpose? And then we start talking about how, well, they need to be placed there because, in each locality or city or whatever, because they're there to hold water for water that is needed immediately for people to shower every day, brush their teeth, wash laundry, wash dishes. And we start talking about how important water is and how it's so accessible, and taking baths, and, like a hot water heater is like a little mini water tower right in our own homes. It's just you go into so many things just talking about a water tower. You can go on in exploration about a water tower, you know what I mean? And it's so interesting. My God, like I'm fascinated. How does it all work? I want to know. I love it. I love the fact of how we've developed communities and made water accessible. It's fucking amazing. And then we talk about how water goes out of the house, and how the sanitation department handles that, and rivers and power plants, and we could go on and on. So anyways, I said that to say, because of his curiosity about water towers, we got into discussing it. And then something happened so organically that I can't even make this shit up. So we're walking back in the woods, and all of a sudden we see the blue markings, right? Which are a trail for the workers to know that there's a water pipe behind here. Excuse me. So through learning that there is a water pipe, we follow the trail. We're like, oh, let's see where this leads. So it leads us to where the water, whatever, the pipe or whatever, I'm sorry, I don't know what these things are called, where it is, and water's gushing out of it. And it's like, oh, water's gushing out of this, and there's icicles all around it. Like, so we're having a discussion. Oh, is this the way that it should be? Learning is taking place so organically right there. And my kid's like, nah, I don't think that's right. Like, there's probably something wrong with that, And I'm like, and then here I am, like, well, I don't know. Maybe like that's the way it's supposed to be. Maybe it's like the water's coming out to relieve pressure. Like, so I'm like, what should we do about this? So I decide, well, I'm not gonna leave, so we just discussed like about it. I was like, I wonder if I should call the water department. I wonder if I should let them know. And I'm like, how do I even tell them where it's at? Because it's literally in a field. It's not like I'm calling the water department and saying, hey, at my address, there's a water issue. I'm like, there is no address out there. So it keeps bothering me because I'm like, well, a part of me is like, it's not my responsibility to call the water department. Like, they should know they have a leak. Don't they have the technology to know, like, there's a leak in the system somewhere? You know what I mean? But it kept bugging me. So I started Googling maps, water pipe maps for my state and my local area. And sure enough, there was a map that had numbers, how everything, had like a serial number for the exact spot. So we went and we found it on the map. So hey, we're learning about maps, right? We're learning about how searching for information in maps, and found the location, called the water department next day. I said, this is the number. I found it on the map. The lady I was talking to was like, well, I don't think that information is accessible to just people. I said, no. I was like, I Googled it. You know what I'm saying? It's right there. Somebody had a map, and this is the serial number for this exact pipe in this location that's bursting with water. So, and sure enough, I think it just happened to be, we weren't trying to go out to see if they had fixed it. It was just like, let it go. But organically, again, this happened where we're like, oh, let's go take our walk. We take a daily walk, walk the dog. We're walking in the field. And we see that the water department is there with their trucks and their little, like, little machinery, little machines, the digging machines and everything. And we're like, wow, like, they came out. Like, so he got to see, like, the water department coming out. They responded to our call. Something was wrong. Like, hey, we helped solve a community problem. Like, cool. Like, we played an integral role in solving a problem, all organically. We wouldn't even try it. So it was like an effortless curiosity learning experience that just happened, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful to just see that work out right in front of my face. And I couldn't plan that. This wasn't a curriculum. There was no curriculum for this. So I think that was a really great example of unschooling just playing out right in front of me. So yeah, I think that's all I want to say. I just want to wrap this up by saying it's living organically, and living organically in your curiosities that fuels this learning, and learning and passions within us. All right, everyone, take care.